They said she was gone. No pulse, no breath, no response. The machines had stopped. The room had gone silent. And the doctors, they had given up. But then they checked the clock. 2:47 a.m. 6 minutes had passed since her heart stopped beating. 6 minutes since they called her time of death. 6 minutes that, according to everything they knew about science and medicine, should have been final. But what happened next? No one in that hospital could explain. This is the story of Grace, 32 years old, declared dead for 6 minutes. And what she experienced in those 6 minutes changed everything, not just for her, but for everyone who heard what happened when she came back. Grace was ordinary, not a saint, not someone who spent her days in prayer or lived a particularly religious life. She worked as a middle school teacher, loved her students, paid her bills, lived in a small apartment with too many houseplants and a cat named Bishop. That Tuesday night started like any other. She came home from work exhausted, graded some papers, made dinner, pasta, nothing fancy. Around 9 p.m., she was washing dishes at her kitchen sink, listening to a podcast, thinking about the parent-teacher conference she had the next day. One moment, she was scrubbing a plate. The next moment, the floor, she collapsed without warning, without pain, without even understanding what was happening. Her phone was on the counter, out of reach. Her sister lived 3 blocks away, but Grace was alone. The cat meowed, confused, concerned in the way cats get when something's wrong. But no one heard, no one knew, not yet, by pure chance, or maybe not chance at all. Her sister Sarah had a bad feeling that night, couldn't shake it. That restless anxiety that makes you check your phone over and over, hoping for a text that doesn't come. At 10:47 p.m., Sarah decided to drive over, just to check, she told herself, just to make sure she's okay. She used her spare key to let herself in. "Grace," she called out, "you home?" The apartment was quiet, too quiet. Then she saw her on the kitchen floor, pale, not breathing. Sarah screamed, grabbed her phone, called 911, started CPR the way she'd learned in a mandatory work training she barely paid attention to. The paramedics arrived in 7 minutes. They took over immediately, loaded Grace onto a stretcher, worked on her in the ambulance. By the time they reached the hospital, Grace had a faint pulse. Barely there, but there. Sarah followed in her car, hands shaking so badly she almost crashed twice. At the ER, they rushed Grace into a trauma bay. Doctors and nurses surrounded her like a choreographed dance of urgency. CPR, medications, defibrillator. Clear. Her body jerked. The monitor spiked, then fell flat again. Again. Another shock. Another jolt. Nothing. They tried everything they had. Everything in their training. Everything modern medicine could offer. But Grace's heart just wouldn't restart. At 2:41 a.m., after 40 minutes of relentless effort, the lead doctor looked at the clock, looked at his team, and said the words, "Time of death, 2:41 a.m. He pulled off his gloves, stepped back. The room went still. That awful, heavy stillness that follows loss. One nurse was crying. Another stood frozen, staring at the monitor's flat line. Outside in the waiting area, Sarah collapsed into a plastic chair. She buried her face in her hands, and she prayed. Not the formal prayers she'd learned as a child, not recited words from memory, just desperate, broken pleas. Please, please don't take her. Please. Over and over. Please. But while Sarah was praying, while the doctors were writing their reports, while the hospital prepared to move Grace's body, Grace wasn't there anymore. Later, much later, when she could finally speak about it, Grace would tell people what those 6 minutes were like. She said there was no pain, no fear, no sense of loss or panic. Just quiet, not the absence of sound, exactly, but the absence of noise, the absence of chaos. It was the most peaceful silence she'd ever experienced. At first, there was nothing, just that stillness. Then warmth, not on her skin, not physical heat, but warmth that came from inside. from deep inside, like being wrapped in something safe, something that knew her, every part of her, every mistake, every secret, every shame, and somehow it loved her anyway. She said she felt lighter, like all the weight she carried her whole life. The anxiety, the guilt, the endless mental to-do lists just lifted. For the first time in 32 years, she felt free. Then she became aware of a presence. Not a person, exactly. Not something she could see with eyes. But she knew someone was there. Ancient, powerful, gentle, and without words, because there was no need for words, she understood, this is not your time. Grace didn't want to believe it, because leaving this place, this peace, felt impossible. She wanted to stay, more than she'd ever wanted anything. For the first time in her life, she felt completely known and completely loved. No performance, no pretending, no fear of judgment, just love. But then, in that timeless moment, something shifted. She thought of Sarah, crying, alone. She thought of her students, who would miss her but wouldn't understand why she left. She thought of Bishop the cat, who would probably be fine, honestly, but still. And she felt herself being pulled, not forced, not dragged, but gently, firmly guided. Back. The warmth began to recede. The peace started to fade. And Grace wanted to scream, "No, not yet." But the presence, the someone who was there, spoke one more time, not in words, but in knowing, you still have work to do. Back in the hospital, Sarah was still praying. The nurses had asked if she wanted to see Grace one last time before they moved her. Sarah couldn't answer, couldn't stand, couldn't think. A nurse gently touched her shoulder. "Take your time," she whispered. That's when they heard it, a shout from the trauma bay. "Wait, wait!" Sarah's head snapped up, footsteps running, doors slamming open. The same doctor who pronounced Grace dead came sprinting out, his face pale. "Get everyone back in here now." Sarah stood, her legs barely holding her. "What's happening?" The doctor didn't answer.